On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected.
Thank you to all our amazing channel members for your generous support.
Alain Delon, the French actor whose striking looks and magnetic screen presence made him an international icon, passed away at the age of 89. His death was natural, the quiet end to a life that had been lived under the glare of cinematic glory and public fascination. Unlike violent or dramatic departures that abruptly alter history, Delon's passing reflected the inevitability of mortality even for cultural legends. It symbolized the fading of an era when European cinema held a powerful sway over global culture, epitomizing a time when actors embodied both mystery and allure without the relentless transparency of today's celebrity age. Delon rose to prominence in the 1960s, starring in films like Purple Noon and Le Samouraï, which cemented his image as the brooding anti-hero. His career coincided with the post-war reimagining of masculinity and artistic expression in Europe. To many, Delon represented a modern knight, aloof, disciplined, and dangerously charismatic. His death, therefore, did not just mark the end of a man's life, but invited reflection on the cultural currents he both shaped and symbolized. The golden years of French and Italian cinema, when art house and popular entertainment blurred seamlessly. The immediate consequences of his passing were most strongly felt in France and Italy, where Delon's films had defined a generation's cinematic identity. Tributes poured in from political leaders, filmmakers, and fellow actors, not unlike the public mourning that followed the deaths of other European cultural giants such as Jean-Paul Belmondo. His death amplified his legend, for in life Delon had been both celebrated and controversial, admired for his artistry, criticized for his politics, and yet undeniably central to the European screen tradition. In death, those complexities softened, allowing him to be remembered primarily as an enduring cultural figure whose face and performances became timeless. Reflecting on his departure, one sees how humanity clings to such figures to anchor its relationship with time, memory, and art. Delon is immortalized not through monuments or political legacies, but through cinema. The flicker of his eyes in Le Samouraï, the sun-drenched Mediterranean frames of Purple Noon. Just as Cleopatra's death dramatized political intrigue, or Lincoln's assassination froze a nation in mourning, Delon's natural death highlights another truth. Legends do not always need dramatic exits to endure. We immortalize him in reels of celluloid, in the stories of those who lived during his reign as Europe's silver screen sovereign, and in the enduring notion that art allows mortality to be transcended. Genghis Khan, the formidable founder of the Mongol Empire, died in August 1227 under circumstances shrouded in mystery. Historical accounts differ. Some chronicles claim he succumbed to injuries sustained after falling from his horse, while others suggest illness or even assassination. The uncertainty itself speaks to the legendary aura surrounding him, as later generations often embellished his death to fit narratives of divine will or fateful destiny. What is clear is that his end came during a campaign against the Western Shia dynasty, underscoring how even at the height of his power, his life was defined by relentless conquest. The immediate consequences of Genghis Khan's passing were profound. His empire, the largest contiguous one in history, was suddenly without its architect. However, the succession plan he had established, dividing territories among his sons while maintaining unity under his chosen heir, Ogedai, prevented immediate collapse. This decision allowed the Mongol Empire to expand even further after his death, stretching into Eastern Europe and the Middle East. In this way, Genghis Khan's passing did not halt the Mongol juggernaut. Instead, it set the stage for its most expansive phase, reflecting his emphasis on structure, loyalty, and pragmatic governance. His death also amplified his legend. Mongols buried him in secrecy, allegedly in an unmarked grave near his birthplace in modern-day Mongolia. According to lore, the funeral procession killed anyone who crossed their path to ensure the site remained hidden, symbolizing the fear and awe he inspired even in death. This secrecy contributed to a sense of mystique that persists today, making his resting place one of history's great unsolved mysteries. The legacy of Genghis Khan's death reveals humanity's deep connection between mortality and power. His story embodies the tension between the fleeting nature of life and the enduring force of memory. Despite his violent campaigns, he is remembered not only as a conqueror, but also as a unifier who fostered trade and communication along the Silk Road. In art and literature, he has been immortalized alternately as a ruthless barbarian and as a visionary leader, reflecting the cultural values of those who recount his tale. Ultimately, Genghis Khan's death illustrates how the end of a life can catalyze the birth of a legend. Humanity preserves such figures through myth, commemoration, and historical reflection, turning mortality into a stage upon which power and memory endure far beyond the grave. Phil Donahue, often hailed as the father of daytime talk television, passed away in 2024 at the age of 88 from natural causes. His death, while peaceful and expected for a man of his years, symbolized the closing of a chapter in American media history. Unlike the violent or politically charged deaths of rulers and revolutionaries, Donahue's departure reflected the quieter values of a modern era, an age where influence is measured less by battles or empires and more by ideas, conversations, and the ability to bring diverse voices into the public square. The immediate aftermath of his passing was marked by an outpouring of tributes from journalists, cultural critics, and former colleagues who recognized how profoundly he had transformed television. Beginning in 1967, The Phil Donahue Show pioneered a format that gave audiences an active role in discussions, while tackling controversial issues like civil rights, feminism, abortion, and religion. His death prompted reflection on how he had democratized television by giving ordinary citizens a chance to ask questions and challenge experts directly. In a way, his passing reawakened an appreciation for public dialogue at a time when modern media often thrives on division rather than discourse. Donahue's legacy was amplified by his death because it reminded the public of how daring his work had been in its context. In the polarized climate of the 1970s and 1980s, he brought taboo subjects to mainstream television, sometimes facing backlash, but always insisting that open conversation was necessary for democracy. Figures like Oprah Winfrey credited him as an inspiration, and the format he popularized remains foundational in broadcast and digital media. His death highlighted how one individual, armed not with political power but with empathy and curiosity, could shift the trajectory of cultural conversation. The way Donahue is remembered speaks to humanity's evolving relationship with mortality, power, and memory. Unlike ancient rulers, whose monuments define their legacies, Donahue's immortality lies in recorded broadcasts and digital archives that continue to circulate. His influence is preserved not in stone, but in the echoes of conversations he sparked. Conversations about justice, equality, and truth. In the end, Phil Donahue's passing reminds us that mortality may silence the voice, but memory ensures the message endures. Through media, commemoration, and the continued relevance of his ideals, Donahue remains a symbol of the enduring power of dialogue to shape history and collective memory. Kofi Annan, the Ghanaian diplomat and 7th Secretary General of the United Nations, died on August 18, 2018, at the age of 80 after a short illness. His death, natural yet sudden, reflected the inevitability of mortality even for a figure whose life's work was devoted to peace, dialogue, and the pursuit of global stability. Unlike rulers who fell to assassination or warriors who perished on battlefields, Annan's passing was emblematic of a modern era in which influence is rooted not in conquest, but in diplomacy, moral authority, and consensus building. The immediate consequences of Annan's death were felt across the world stage. Tributes poured in from heads of state, humanitarian organizations, and ordinary citizens who had admired his calm leadership during turbulent times. He was remembered as a reformer who worked to modernize the UN, strengthen human rights mechanisms, and advocate for interventions against genocide, as seen in his pivotal role during crises in Rwanda and later Iraq. His death prompted renewed discussion about the limitations of international institutions and the personal burdens borne by those who lead them. In many ways, the reflections that followed his passing re-emphasized the enduring need for the values he championed: cooperation, justice, and peace. Annan's death also amplified his legacy. Awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2001, he had already achieved international recognition, yet his passing crystallized his image as one of the most respected global statesmen of the late 20th and early 21st centuries. Just as Lincoln's assassination symbolized the fragility of unity in America, Annan's death became a reminder of the fragility of international peace efforts in an increasingly fractured world. His absence left a symbolic void at a time when global trust in international cooperation was in decline. The way Annan is remembered reflects humanity's ongoing relationship with mortality and memory. His legacy has been immortalized through foundations, educational programs, and international honors that continue his mission. Unlike ancient leaders remembered through myth or empire, Annan's memory endures through principles, diplomacy, justice, and service to humanity. Ultimately, Kofi Annan's passing illustrates how death, whether violent or peaceful, often magnifies the meaning of a life's work. Humanity commemorates such figures not only in monuments, but in the continuation of their ideals. Annan's life and death remind us that while mortality is universal, the pursuit of peace can leave echoes that transcend generations. Ben Cross, the British actor best known for his role as Harold Abrahams in the Academy Award-winning film Chariots of Fire, died on August 18, 2020, at the age of 72 after a short illness. His death was natural, a quiet end in contrast to the often dramatic roles he played on stage and screen. Unlike figures whose violent or politically charged deaths altered the course of nations, Cross's passing reflected the values of a modern cultural era, one in which influence is measured through art, performance, and the ability to inspire audiences across generations. The immediate consequences of his death were most strongly felt in the arts community. Tributes poured in from colleagues, film organizations, and fans worldwide, who remembered not only his defining role in Chariots of Fire, but also his wide-ranging career in theater, television, and film. His death sparked a re-evaluation of his contributions to cinema, especially his role in bringing dignity and intensity to characters who often embodied resilience against prejudice, as in the case of Abrahams, a Jewish athlete who overcame discrimination to win Olympic gold. The timing of his death during a global pandemic added poignancy, as it reminded audiences of the role of storytelling and performance in sustaining cultural memory through difficult times. In many ways, Cross's death amplified his legend. While he had worked consistently throughout his career, his association with Chariots of Fire became a timeless cultural anchor. The film, with its themes of perseverance, faith, and justice, continues to resonate today, and Cross's performance remains central to its enduring appeal. His death reaffirmed his place in the lineage of actors whose work defined an era of British cinema and connected deeply with international audiences. The way Cross is remembered highlights humanity's relationship with mortality and memory in the arts. Unlike emperors or political leaders who are immortalized through monuments or national myths, actors live on in the permanence of film and performance. Cross remains present through the characters he embodied, his voice and expressions preserved indefinitely for future generations. Ben Cross's passing illustrates how art provides a form of immortality. While his life ended quietly, the stories he told and the emotions he evoked endure. Humanity commemorates such figures not only through obituaries and tributes, but through the lasting cultural imprint of their craft. A reminder that memory, when intertwined with art, transcends mortality. Mildred Davis, the celebrated American silent film actress and beloved leading lady of Harold Lloyd, passed away on August 18, 1969, at the age of 68 from natural causes. Her death, quiet and unassuming, stood in stark contrast to the dramatic or violent ends experienced by many historical figures. Yet, it reflected the unique challenges of her era, the ephemeral nature of early Hollywood fame and the societal expectations placed on women, which often curtailed professional ambitions once marriage or family life intervened. Davis's career flourished during the 1920s, a period when cinema was emerging as a powerful cultural force. Her work alongside Lloyd in films like Safety Last and A Sailor-Made Man showcased her charm, comedic timing, and grace, making her one of the most recognizable actresses of the silent era. Her on-screen persona embodied the optimism, elegance, and resilience valued in post-World War I America, reflecting both societal ideals and the aspirational qualities audiences sought in their heroes and heroines. Unlike rulers or military leaders whose deaths could reshape nations, Davis's passing primarily affected the arts and the memory of early Hollywood, reminding audiences of a formative period in cinematic history. The immediate consequences of her death were felt within her family, particularly by Harold Lloyd, and among fans and film historians who revisited her contributions to cinema. While her passing did not alter the broader course of history, it did amplify her legacy by sparking renewed appreciation for the silent film era and the artistry of performers whose work laid the foundation for modern cinema. Retrospectives of her films highlighted how her presence elevated Lloyd's performances, creating enduring moments of humor, charm, and human connection on screen. Davis's death illustrates how humanity negotiates mortality and memory, particularly in the arts. Unlike leaders immortalized by monuments or political myth, actors achieve lasting recognition through the preservation of their performances. Davis lives on through the films that captured her talent and spirit, allowing contemporary audiences to experience her contributions decades later. Ultimately, Mildred Davis's passing reminds us that mortality does not diminish the influence of those who shape culture. Through film preservation, retrospectives, and scholarly study, her life continues to resonate, demonstrating that art provides a form of immortality that transcends time and ensures that memory and legacy endure.